Today, we'll be talking to Steve Hoffman, one of the founders of Founderspace, one of the strongest incubators in the Bay Area. Now, thank you for joining us today, Mr. Hoffman.
Sure.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about Founderspace? What is it? Why'd you create it?
So Founderspace started over 5 years ago.
Okay.
I had done 3 venture-funded startups, and I was taking a break. I was like, I need a break. And all my friends here, I live in San Francisco, started to come to me and say, Steve, how'd you raise the money? How'd you get going? What did you do? How do we do our investor deck? How do we do our business plan? So I literally started just helping my friends. And I started not as a business, but just for fun. So it was a hobby. I'd go out to coffee with them. I'd help them with their business plan. I'd introduce them to some investors, give them feedback. And what I found was that all of my friends had a lot of questions. And most of their questions were very similar. So on my blog, I started to post answers to those questions. And those answers, suddenly people started sharing them. So my blog started to become more popular. I named it Founderspace. That's where the name came from.
Okay.
The domain was available. And then I said, well, that's great. As soon as the blog started to become popular, all these other startup entrepreneurs started to come to me and say, Steve, I need help, but I didn't know who they were. So I'd have to meet them. So I started to form a group here in San Francisco, which we also called Founderspace, where we'd get together in a building like this, but we were doing it all over the place, where we'd meet once a month. We'd get in founders, we'd get in angel investors, we'd get in lawyers, experienced entrepreneurs, and just really help startups solve their problem. So that Founderspace, we call them roundtables, started here in the city. Then they moved to Silicon Valley. Then we have them in New York, Texas, Los Angeles, as far away as Singapore, all over the place. We just kept growing and growing and growing. And at a certain point, all of these founders were like, well, we want a full incubator, an accelerator. We don't, these roundtables are great, the events are great, everything you're doing, but we want more. So we started our incubator and accelerator program here in San Francisco. And now it's expanded all around the world.
That's incredible. It's an incubator by the people for the people.
That's what, for me, it was a hobby, which has now become full-time.
That's incredible.
It's still fun.
That's awesome. So what did you say you did before you did Founders?
Oh, I just did a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff?
I've been everything from
top 3.
A manga rewriter with Naruto, The Ring, and many other mangas, all the way to making movies. I worked in Hollywood, for a film production company, did all that stuff. I produced many, many games in my lifetime. So mobile games, online games, all sorts of games. I worked for Sega and video games. I did venture-funded startups, interactive TV startups, game startups, media startups of my own that were venture-funded. And now I'm doing Founderspace.
That's incredible. So if you could offer any advice to investors, your top 3 pieces of advice that you've gleaned throughout the years.
To investors or startups looking for investment?
Investors and then starters looking for investment.
So investors.
Yes, please.
So most investors are pretty naive, especially angel investors and even venture capitalists. So there are some very, very smart venture capitalists out there who really know how to identify winning companies. But I talk to especially overseas investors, spend a lot of time in China and other places. A lot of them just don't know. They're not disciplined. They don't have a methodology for evaluating startups. And they really don't know the criteria of what makes a company take off. They just look at it and go, oh, that's a cool VR startup. It's really hot. We'll put money in. And that's their criteria, right?
Yeah.
They don't know anything about the fundamentals of the business. And what they don't do, typically, is ask the right questions. So great investors really go deep with the startup. So they go deep into 3 questions, I'll say. Number 1, they go deep into the customer, like who the customer is, why that customer is using the product. They want to not just talk to the entrepreneur about the customer. They want to make sure the entrepreneur knows exactly who their customer is, but they want to go directly to the customer and validate what the entrepreneur says with the customer. Number 2, they need to ask questions about why is this product different from all the other products on the market? What's the secret sauce? Okay. What makes this product really explode, right? What have they figured out that nobody else in the industry really understands that's going to make their product go huge and beat out the competitors? Because honestly, if you're a Me Too product, which I'd say 80% of the startups are Me Too, they have different features, but those features don't offer a core fundamental value that's different from what's out there in the competition.
So you like a uniquity factor.
Yeah, it can't just be like we have this feature.
Yeah.
A feature is something you add on to something, a core value.
Okay.
It has to be, we use this product in a different way. This product does something different for us than the other products out there. It's not Facebook, right?
Yeah.
It's not just another way to connect to my friends. It's like Snapchat offered the disappearing messages initially. That allowed them to gain a lot of traction because that was a feature that teenagers couldn't get with Facebook Messenger or anywhere else. You know, they were sending these messages, sexting often. They wanted those things to go away.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by core value. It's not just another messenger.
So it's a fundamental difference.
Right, and those are the ones that tend to take off.
Okay.
The Me Too products have a very, very hard time doing it. The last thing they need to do that they often don't do is really analyze the business model. So business models are not that complex, and it's surprising that investors often just won't look ahead and see, like a lot of startups can fake having a great business. They can be acquiring tons of customers by spending money, but the fundamentals of the customer acquisition don't add up. They're spending more to acquire customers than they will ever make in profit. And those startups do this all the time because that's how you scale. But eventually the math needs to add up. So you need to run tests with the startup where the startup has to show you a test without incentives, without promotions, without this. How much can I acquire a customer for, and how much can I earn over their lifetime?